Okay, today what I wanted to show you is a quick and easy way to cook your beans. I know some of you are still a little leery of using your beans because you may feel like it takes so long to get your beans cooked. So what I wanted to do is show you what I do, how I cook my beans, and also show you how I cook a lot of beans and put them into smaller packaging, put them in the freezer so I can use them in other recipes without having to cook beans. So I wanted to introduce you to an electric pressure cooker. Pressure cookers cook things in a fraction of the time. So if you want to go green, they use a lot less electricity, so that will save you money on your electricity bill. And it cooks things by steaming them, so it also is a healthier way to cook. Now if you or your mom had a pressure cooker that you did on the stove, you know that they can be kind of hard because you have to let it get to pressure and then the little thing starts ticking and then you have to make sure it stays the right ticking pressure and it can be kind of confusing. Now if you still have a pressure cooker, and you decide to get an electric one, don't get rid of it. That's actually a really perfect tool for emergency cooking because if you don't have a lot of fuel, you don't want to be using all your time boiling water when you can cook things really fast in your pressure cooker over your grill or something like that. So, the pressure cooker, an electric pressure cooker, is kind of like a crock pot. It's one of those things where you can set, it kind of has a brain of its own, and it will do everything for you. The other thing that I like about it when you're dealing with a pressure cooker, because it cooks at such a high heat with steam, if you open the lid too soon, you can severely burn yourself. But with an electric pressure cooker, it will not let you open it unless it is safe for you to open. So if you have kids around, maybe that's another good reason why you want to do that. But let me show you how to use it to cook your beans. So I have a pound of beans. So what we want to do first is we want to go through and pick out the beans that are a little shriveled or a little gross looking, because those are bad beans. So you want to go through and you want to pick through your beans. And basically you're going to want to put in double the amount of water. So I'm going to add this to my pressure cooker after I've sorted through and picked out all the beans that don't look right. And I'm actually following my pressure cooker's instructions. So if your pressure cooker has instructions, you'll want to see this. But I'm just showing you how easy it can be. But obviously you'll want to check your own pressure cooker's instructions. And I'm going to pour the beans in. And I am going to pour in 8 cups of water. Now if you're not going to be using this for a dessert, you can also add spices to it, but don't add in salt because that will keep the beans from cooking. And then the other important thing is we want to add in 4 teaspoons of oil. And this is the same reason why we add a little butter when we're cooking rice, and that's because it cuts down on the froth that can build up when you're cooking things like this. Okay. Now, why don't you come in a little bit closer and take a look at this. This is the lid to the pressure cooker, and for my Cuisinart electric pressure cooker, the ticker needs to be on the left-hand side when you screw it on, or it won't lock properly, and if it doesn't lock properly, then it will escape steam and it won't ever get to full pressure. So you put it on and then you turn it to the right, and you know it's locked because you can see where there's this little indentation, and you can't move it unless you're going to unlock it. So you should also hear that it is locked. Another thing that you want to make sure is on is this little plastic condensation. It collects all the condensation there in the back. So once that is on and your lid is locked, what we're going to do is this electric pressure cooker, which is one of the reasons why I really like it, has a lot of settings. It has a low pressure, high pressure, browning, and saute. So you can actually brown and saute all in the same pot without having to get more dishes dirty. It also has a simmer, and it also has a keep warm. So you can leave this alone, and if you don't get back in time, it will just automatically keep it warm for you. Unlike a pressure cooker that you would keep on your stove where you'd have to keep watching it and making sure it was going okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to press menu and put it on high pressure, and then we're going to set our time. And the time that it's going to take for these to cook is going to be 22 to 25 minutes. So I'm just going to set it for 24 minutes and press start. Now it will start, and it will get to pressure and it will equalize itself and keep it at the right pressure for as long as it takes to cook. Now, even though it takes 25 minutes to cook, don't get mistaken, because it still needs to let the pressure release. Remember how I said it won't let you open the lid until it's safe to open? And so the 25 minutes is only the time that it's cooking while it's at pressure. So you still need to allow 10 or 15 minutes for the pressure cooker to get up to the correct pressure. And then you also need to allow 15 to 30 minutes afterwards for it to naturally release the pressure, which means you won't touch your pressure cooker. You will just wait until it's ready. And you'll know when it's ready because it will allow you to unlock the lid and open it. So that's a way to get beans done in about an hour. No soaking, super easy. You can leave it there. I'm actually gonna go run to the park and come back. That is how easy cooking beans in an electric pressure cooker can be. So when they're done, we will show you how they look and then also show you what you can do so that you can keep it in smaller packages in your freezer for use in other items right away. Okay, so this has naturally released its pressure, and you can tell now because there is no sound. And so you can hear when it's releasing. So if you don't hear any sound, that's a good indication that it's time to try and see if you can open it. And we also know, because I can open it, that it's done. Now the beans themselves will still have water in them, and you're going to want to use hot pads because the inner thing is hot. Pressure cookers get very, very hot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these through a strainer and then rinse them, because remember, when we're cooking beans, it's the soaking and rinsing of the water that helps cut down on gas. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse these. And now what I'm going to do, because you can see this is a lot of beans, it fills almost my whole strainer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now measure these out into cup measurements as whole cooked beans, or I'm also going to blend them in my blender with just enough water so that they whirl to use it as oil in my baked goods. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scoop of beans. You can do any measurement you want, how much you want. And then I'm going to take some water and pour it in. This isn't an exact science. You just need to see how much water it will take for your blender to whirl with the beans in. And then we're going to turn the blender on and turn it on high and let it blend. Okay, so now that our beans have now turned into a nice puree, you remember you use the puree for oil, the whole cooked beans for butter. And what I like to do, because I don't always want to be cooking up beans before I make anything, is I bake a whole bunch. Remember, I baked this whole colander full. And I like to puree some and keep some whole and put them in individual measurements according to my recipes and put them in the freezer. They'll last in your freezer for up to 6 months. So if I were you and you wanted to do this, get your brownie recipes, look at the back, and see what they normally call for. Mine usually call for 2/3 cup oil. So what I can do is scoop out 2/3 cup of oil, and you may want to wait for this to cool down a little bit. You can just stick it in your fridge. And then I put it in my bag, and you want to make sure and get all the beans out, because sometimes they can kind of hide in the cup. And then if you have Ziploc bags, you can use those. If all you have are these sandwich bags, just put a little twisty tie on it. You want to make sure and write what the measurement is on the bag, and then stick it in your freezer. Now if you want to do cookies, you do the same thing, but you just put in your whole cooked, drained, rinsed beans and put them in the measurements of your cookies. Now I can say for myself that most of my cookie recipes call for a cup of butter, so I would put a cup of beans in separate bags and put them in my freezer for up to 6 months. Now I wanted to give one last plug for an electric pressure cooker, because it cooks way more than just beans. It will cook rice, white rice in about 10 minutes. It will cook brown rice in about 20 minutes. It cooks meats. It cooks vegetables. You can make whole meals in it. Remember, especially since you can brown and saute in the same pot. So it will cover a myriad of things that you'll be cooking, and it cuts the time at least in half, and it will cut your electricity bill. Plus, you can finally make beans when you're in a hurry. So, for more tips and tricks for using your food storage every day, visit everydayfoodstorage.net.